people who were professional blind daters, and I sort of became a professional blind dater. And so we would sit down, and most of the conversation was quickly about how, yeah, we're not right for each other, but how do you meet people? And it was actually turned into a very good... But when I was telling my friends my criteria, one of the ones that I would list was that I wanted a woman who could get me out of a third world prison. And my friends were like, what are your future plans? What? And I said, no, it's just a visualization for somebody really resourceful, because I think that you don't want to go through life with teammates who aren't resourceful. And so you do want to go through life with people who, if you need, could get you out of a third world prison.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. So, so this is a picture from...
That's a recent photo.
Yeah, that was last summer, I think.
Yeah.
We were on a family vacation, and so this one jumped out at me because, you're doing McKinsey curls there with your wife, and you're looking a little buff, and so that, of course, made me think of this. Oh. Now, as internet memes go, Swole Jeff is pretty cool, right? So, if Swole Mark raced across the internet, I'd be pretty psyched. But, this got sent to me by so many people, variations of this, right? Oh my God, your brother looks awesome, your brother looks awesome. Yeah, I know. And then, but it confused me because, in all honesty, this is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right? So
that.
When you guys saw Swole Jeff, I was like, I was surprised too, right? I mean, this is...
Yeah, sexy, right? I remember that. I am...
How old are you here?
Halloween costume. I had some friends, and we went as the fruit of the loom.
No, hold, wait. There you go.
There we go. That is... Yeah, the chicks,
they went as lady killers.
Chicks loved that. They loved that. We were very successful in high school.
So as fitness goes, and then there was this guy who's like late '90s Jeff, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And your eating habits at this point in your life were not great.
No, This is, you won't even believe this story. You're just going to have to believe me that I tell you this is true. When my wife and I got married, I had been eating a whole can for a couple of years. I had been eating for breakfast every morning a whole can of Pillsbury biscuits. So I would wake up in the morning, I would preheat the oven to 375, I would get out the baking sheet, I would crack open the Pillsbury biscuits, place them on there, and with butter. And I would eat the whole can. And I was skinny as a rail. And it was just, after watching me, so then we get married, and she watched me do this every morning as my spouse for like 3 months. And then she finally stopped me one day, and she said, "Do you know what's in that?" And I was like, honestly, that wasn't even a concept for me, that there was something in food. That there was like I had never read a nutrition label in my life. I ate what tasted good to me. And so she kind of showed me the ingredients label, and we had a little very rudimentary discussion about nutrition, and I stopped eating the biscuits.
Well, I'm frankly very happy and somewhat surprised that you survived all of that. We're glad you're still with us.
So she was incredulous. She couldn't believe it.
So one of the things I want to talk about, a question that we've talked about before, you were 30 years old in 1994 when you decided to start Amazon.com. Mm-hmm. You had a great job. I remember you had a great apartment on the Upper West Side.
I've been married for a year.
You've been married for a year.
I had not been eating biscuits for 9 months.
And I'm just, how did you go through making the decision to drop what was a very good job and take this chance. It all seems very obvious now, right? This many years later that it paid off, but at the time it was not obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I did do a lot of soul searching. I went to my boss at the time, and I really liked my job. And I told my boss I was going to go do this thing, start an internet bookstore. And my wife I'd already told my wife, and she's like, "Great, let's go." And I said to my boss, I was going to do this. He's like, "This is a good idea." He said, "I think this is a good idea, but it would be an even better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job." And that sort of made some logical sense to me, and he convinced me to think about it for a couple of days. So I went away, and I was really trying to get my head around how to think about this. And I think, for me, the right way to make that kind of very personal decision, because those decisions are personal. They're not like data-driven business decisions. They are, what does your heart say? And for me, the best way to think about it was to project myself forward to age 80 and say, look, when I'm 80 years old, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have. I don't want to be 80 years old in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back over my life and cataloging a bunch of major regrets. And I think that regrets, our biggest regrets, in most cases, you can murder somebody, okay, you'd regret that. But in most cases, our biggest regrets turn out to be acts of omission. It's paths not taken, and they haunt us. We wonder, what would have happened? I loved that person, and I never told them. And then they married somebody else. I didn't do this. And so that's the frame of mind that I put myself in. And once I did that, once I thought about it that way, it was immediately obvious to me. I knew that when I'm 80, I would never regret trying this thing that I was super excited about and it failing. If it failed, fine. I would be very proud of the fact when I'm 80 that I tried. And I also knew that it would always haunt me if I didn't try. And so that would be a regret. It would be a 100% chance of a regret if I didn't try, and basically a 0% chance of regret if I tried and failed. So I think that's a useful metric for any important life decision.
And this is our sister took this photo. She was, I don't quite know why she thought this was a momentous occasion. This is you and Mackenzie.
Yeah, we're about to take off driving across the country to start Amazon, go to Seattle.
And that's
my yellow lab, Kamala, named after a Star Trek character.
We're so happy to have these family photos, but we can't for the life of us figure out why Christina bothered to take them, but we're so glad she did. And then, she also was smart enough to tell you to leave the dog.
Yeah, she saved us probably because we were going to drive across the country with the dog, which was probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
So she said, why don't I keep the dog, and after you guys get settled, I'll send you the dog.
So a question I have is, we just talked about the fact that, there was certainly no guarantee that Amazon was going to work.
No, there never is any kind of startup.
I think, and what would Jeff Bezos be doing if this hadn't worked out?
I think I don't. It's a good question. Nobody ever really knows what twists and turns life takes. My best guess is I would be a very happy software engineer.
Yeah. And working on anything in particular?
Well, today I might be. I don't know. I'm very, very curious about machine learning and artificial intelligence, and at Amazon we're doing a lot of that. Probably I would be attracted to that field today.
And if, I thought of this question, I'm not sure exactly how you would answer it, but I am curious to know, like, your fantasy job, not the one that would pay the bills.
Well, that I have, and you know what it is.
I think
he knows.
My guess is bartender.
Yeah, I do have, by the way, I'm really glad I'm wearing my Honey Badger Don't Care t-shirt there. Thank you for that photo, because it looks like I've had about 4 of those already. I appreciate that.
And that looks like a Bloody Mary. That's an early start.
What are brothers for?
That's an early start.
But yeah, I have this.
You make a mean cocktail.
I do. I pride myself on my craft cocktails, and I do have this fantasy that I want to be a bartender, and I know that it is a fantasy. Like, if I were actually a bartender, they're probably like I've glamorized the job in my mind. I know that, but I love people. I like talking to people. I love making cocktails.
You're not very fast.
I'm super slow. It would have to be
It'd
a
have to be a very
craft
slow
cocktail
bar.
bar. We'd have to charge a lot per drink, and it'd be, there'd be a big sign behind the bar that says you can have it good or you can have it fast, which do you want, that kind of thing. But yeah, I have a kind of fantasy there.
So if we could shift gears a little bit, I want to talk about Blue Origin.
Yeah.
So Blue Origin is your private spaceflight, commercial spaceflight company. And we'll talk in a minute about all the work that you're doing in that regard. But I guess what I want to focus on for a minute or two is the inspiration for that, the passion behind it. So, I'm going to put up a photo now, and this one's really more embarrassing for me than for you. But so here we are.
You look like you're about to block a soccer kick or something.
I'm auditioning for Alvin
and that's
the
on the
Chipmunk.
far right there is our dad.
That's Chico and the Man over there on the right.
He's Cuban, and it's a kind of, it's one of those tricks that the universe plays on you that my mom's name is Jackie and my name is Jeff, and there's no J in Spanish. And so he still has to call her Yaki and me Yef. And but he sounds exactly like Ricky Ricardo, and is a delightful guy. But yeah, that's the whole crew there.
That's the whole crew there. So you were the valedictorian of your high school in Miami, and had the opportunity to give a speech at your graduation. And I think the vast majority of your speech was about colonizing space.
I think all of it.
I think all of it as well.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I still remember your closing line. I mean, even then, it stood out to me.
Yeah.
And it was, do you remember it?
I do. I remember the close. It was something like Space, the Final Frontier, meet me there.
That was it.
That was, yeah.
So,
and I've been passionate about space, rockets, and rocket engines since I was a 5-year-old boy.
And so, I want to talk about that a little bit because, we've talked about, or, certainly the story you've told about having seen the moon landing in 1969, right? So this is Pop again.
That's Christina, right?
That's our sister on the floor. So this was a very familiar setting for us. Anytime Pop was watching TV, he was laying on the. He had perfectly good furniture. I could see it, but
he liked to lay on the floor.
Laid on the floor to watch television, and you remember a scene exactly like this when you were watching the lunar landing.
Yeah. No, that was his posture. Yeah, and I do think you never know exactly. You don't choose your passions choose you. How they are formed, you're never completely sure. But I do think you get imprinted somehow early on with certain things. You just get excited about them, and because you're excited, you pay more attention, and they grow. And space is like that for me. I watched Neil Armstrong step onto the moon when I was 5.
And I do wonder. I know that Pop was a big fan of the Watergate trials. Also watched those in the
I
same
watched
setting.
Them just like this. He was kind of a news junkie anyway, but he obsessively watched the Watergate hearings.
Do you think at some level that might have influenced you?
At least by the Post?
Yeah, I'm just curious about.
It's hard to know. I bought the Post because I think it's an important institution. And, I told the team at the time, the Post at the time was kind of financially upside down, had a lot of work to do, no fault of their own. The internet had really taken the wind out of newspaper companies. And I said, look, I would not buy a financially upside down salty snack food company. But the Post is a real institution I think matters and needs some runway. So that's why I did it. I happen to know the guy who had owned it for so many years, Don Graham, who's just an amazing person. And so that all worked out. But did watching the Watergate hearings with Pop on the carpet have influence on that? Probably.
Right, at some level. So going back to Blue Origin, I mean, space has been such a big part of your life for so long, and certainly every memory.
That's in Houston. We lived in Houston
for many years. That was a park not too far from our house. I think that, it's science fiction movies, books, my passion for that stuff certainly came from, watching you enjoy it so much. But, I look at this picture and, I thought to myself, well, I've seen that face recently, and this. So this is you're standing on the landing pad.
Yeah.
In West Texas, the launch and landing site in West Texas,
Yeah.
where you're launching and landing the New Shepard vehicle for Blue Origin.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you could just take a minute or two and sort of help us understand, what is Blue Origin up to?
Well, Blue Origin the vision for Blue Origin is millions of people living and working in space. And the key thing is we have to dramatically reduce the cost of access to space. Right now, space travel is very expensive. And the reason it's expensive is not hard to understand. It's because we throw the hardware away after each use. And so we need reusable rocket vehicles, and that's what Blue Origin is working on. We're working on making sure that we don't have to throw the plane away every time after you fly, to your vacation destination. That would definitely increase the cost of your vacation. And so that's what we need to do, and we can do it. It's totally possible, and I think it's important.
Yeah, this is what the booster looks like when it's coming back down.
Yeah.
This is again coming back.
My
down
cowboy hat still has champagne stains. Which,
that's right. Your hat still has
the best
champagne.
kind of stains.
So I guess if we could talk. And this is one of my favorite shots. This is the booster in
and that's
West
Texas. It's beautiful country.
So if you could just talk a little bit about, you've been passionate about space your whole life,
yeah.
But this is not just a plaything for you.
No,
the
God,
work
no.
that Blue Origin is doing is not a nice thing. I mean,
No.
this is important work.
My view is that it's incredibly important work that needs to be done and done as quickly as possible. And I have my own reasons why I believe that. They can be explained pretty simply. And it's not, for me, it's not there's a very kind of common argument that's been around for a long time, actually kind of first popularized by Arthur C. Clarke, who said all civilizations become spacefaring or extinct. And this is the kind of Plan B argument that, when Earth is destroyed somehow, we better make sure that we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. And I hate the Plan B argument. I think, Plan B with respect to Earth being destroyed is make sure Plan A works. So we have sent robotic probes to every planet in this solar system. Believe me, this is the best one. We know that. It's not even close. My friends who say they want to move to Mars or something, I say, why don't you go live in Antarctica for a year first? Because it's a garden paradise compared to Mars. And so we really, this planet is so amazing. It's a jewel in our solar system. And we have, if you take baseline energy usage on Earth and just compound it at a few % a year for just a few hundred years, you have to cover the entire Earth's surface in solar cells. So that's not going to happen. So we have two choices. We either go out into space or we switch over to a civilization of stasis. And personally, I do not like the idea of stasis. We have, our grandchildren and their grandchildren will live in a much better world if they can continue to advance and develop and use more energy and all of the things that we've enjoyed for hundreds of years as a civilization of growth. I don't even really believe in stasis. I think things are either growing or shrinking. I think stasis is highly unusual and in real life doesn't exist. I don't even think liberty is consistent with the idea of stasis. I mean, if you get real stasis, somebody's going to have to tell you how many kids you can have, how much energy you can use. There'll be all kinds of things that just aren't consistent with liberty and freedom. So, but in space, we have, for all practical purposes, for somebody really resourceful, because I think that you don't want to go through life with teammates who aren't resourceful. And so you do want to go through life with people who, if you need, could get you out of a third world prison.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. So, so this is a picture from.
That's a recent photo.
Yeah, that was last summer, I think.
Yeah.
We were on a family vacation, and so this one jumped out at me because you're doing McKinsey curls.
People who were professional blind daters, and I sort of became a professional blind dater. And so we would sit down, and most of the conversation was quickly about how, yeah, we're not right for each other, but how do you meet people? And it was actually turned into a very good. But when I was telling my friends my criteria, one of the ones that I would list was that I wanted a woman who could get me out of a third world prison. And my friends were like, "What are your future plans? Like what?" And I said, "No, it's just a visualization."
Variations of this, right? Oh my God, your brother looks awesome. Your brother looks awesome. Yeah, I know. And then, but it confused me because, in all honesty, this is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right? So
That.
when you guys saw Swole Jeff, I was like, I was surprised too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is
This image.
there with your wife, and you're looking a little buff, and so that, of course, made me think of this. Oh. Now, as internet memes go, Swole Jeff is pretty cool, right? So, if Swole Mark raced across the internet, I'd be pretty psyched. But, this got sent to me by so many people.
Sexy, right?
Yeah.
I remember that. I am.
How old
that's
are you
a
here?
Halloween costume. I am one of. I had some friends, and we went as the fruit of
Oh,
the
no,
loom.
hold, wait. There you go.
There we go. That is. Yeah. The
They
chicks,
went as
the
lady
chicks-
killers.
Chicks loved that. They loved that. We were very successful in high school.